imagine this for a second. A government that doesn't just, fall into corruption, but actually engineers its whole economy, not for the people, but uh, purely for its own survival, its own enrichment.
Yeah, it sounds pretty extreme, doesn't it? Almost like fiction?
Right. But in Eritrea, this isn't fiction. It seems to be the complex reality of how their financial system is set up. So today, we're doing a deep dive. We've got these investigative reports, official analyses.
A whole stack of material.
Exactly. And we want to figure out, based on these sources, how this unique system works, how state and party power are just completely merged, where the money comes from, the illicit streams, and why it's apparently so resilient.
It's about understanding how that wealth and power gets concentrated in the hands of really a very small group.
Okay, let's unpack this.
And what really stands out in these reports about Eritrea, I think, is that it goes beyond what we usually think of it as corruption. It's not just, a bit of graft here and there or a few bad apples. It's like the whole system, the state and the ruling party, are intentionally designed to operate as, well, one entity. It's described as this systemic, almost industrial-level kleptocracy built very deliberately.
So how do you even build something like that? What's the foundation? Our sources suggest it really starts with this fusion of the state and the ruling party, the PFDJ.
The People's Front for Democracy and Justice.
Yeah, they paint Eritrea as basically a one-party state. The PFDJ is the only legal party, but it's not just political control, you see. It's economic, too.
The government and the PFDJ, they don't just cooperate on the economy.
They are the economy, essentially.
That's what the reports suggest.
Yeah.
Controlling all the important sectors. Most big companies are owned by the government or the party. Private business. It's mostly small shops, local stuff.
And this isn't a new thing, right? The sources trace it back.
Exactly. It goes back to the PFDJ's predecessor, the EPLF, the Eritrean People's Liberation Front. After independence, the EPLF wasn't just, disbanded. It was apparently restructured. The sources say it became an implementing body, specifically focusing on the economy. So economic control was kind of baked in from the start.
Wow.
Which is why, apparently, many Eritreans today see the state, the PFDJ, the military. It's all sort of one big monopolistic conglomerate. It's a command economy, really. Enterprises run by the executive, by top party people, not market forces.
That makes a lot more sense now. It's not just government in business, it is the business. Okay, here's where it gets really interesting according to these reports. This idea of institutionalized opacity.
Right.
It sounds like more than just things not being transparent. It sounds like a deliberate strategy, a feature, not a bug.
Absolutely. That's the core idea. It's a design choice, and it enables all these financial operations to happen without accountability. I mean, think about it. The national budget isn't public.
No public budget.
Nope. Government debt, secret, new regulations, ministries can issue them, PFDJ approves them, no public discussion, and the financial system itself is largely cut off from the world. Well, the currency, the nakfa, you can't convert it internationally. Capital flows are super restricted. Getting profits out of the country, very difficult, except maybe for some mining operations. It creates this insulated bubble.
And that allows for arbitrary decisions.
Exactly. Look at the Ethiopian Airlines example mentioned in the reports. Their funds got frozen in Eritrea. The CEO flat out called it a political decision. It just highlights how shielded and, frankly, arbitrary this financial world can be.
Okay, so fused power, deliberate opacity, and then the sources use this really strong term. They call it a mafia state model.
Yeah, that's a provocative term.
It really is. What are they trying to convey with that? How is calling a state a criminal organization or a mafia state different from just saying there's widespread corruption?
It's about the system itself.
Yeah.
It implies a reality where public money is treated like private income for the leaders. No public books, just arbitrary rule by the president and his inner circle. And crucially, this is the distinction the sources make. It's not because the state is failing.
Right, not incompetence.
Exactly. It's presented as a deliberate kleptocratic model. The system is the tool for extracting wealth for the elite, which explains, why the regime consistently pushes back against groups like the World Bank.
Because external oversight would break the model?
Precisely. You can't have transparency if your whole operation relies on secrecy.
Okay, but that's a huge claim, intentional design, not just massive corruption. How do the sources support that interpretation? Are there specific structures they point to?
They do. They point to the formal architecture. It's not just individuals acting badly, it's the institutions. For example, they talk about the Hydri Trust.
Okay, what's that?
It's described as the main holding company for all the businesses owned by the PFDJ. It basically ensures the party's economic monopoly.
Wow.
And then there's the Red Sea Trading Corporation, or RSTC, also known as O9. That's the party's commercial arm, its main funder, the biggest importer. Basically, it's cash cow.
So these aren't obscure shell companies?
Not at all. And here's the kicker. Both the Hydra Trust and the Red Sea Trading Corporation have been sanctioned by the U.S. Treasury.
Really?
Yes, which is basically official recognition that these entities are key financial tools for the ruling party involved in illicit activities.
That's quite something. It really does sound like a sort of national family business, but with immense power. And I guess that level of control needs specific people running it.
You nailed it. The reports really zeroed in on one figure, Hagos Gebrehiwot Wildikidan.
Okay.
He wears two hats, economic advisor to President Afwerki and CEO of the Red Sea Trading Corporation. He's described as one of the very few people who knows the details of both the official money and the, let's say, clandestine funds.
The linchpin.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And the fact that the U.S. sanctioned him personally, it really highlights that disrupting this network means going after these key lieutenants.
Yeah.
The ones managing the hidden operations, manipulating the informal economy, keeping the whole thing afloat.
Right. Okay, so we've got the structure, fused state party, the secrecy, this mafia state idea with its corporate arms like Hydri and RSTC and key players like Hagos. Now, the big question. Where does the money actually come from? How is this whole system funded?
Ah, yes, the illicit lifelines, as the reports call them. One absolutely crucial, consistent source is the coercive diaspora tax.
The diaspora tax, what is that exactly?
It's a 2% income tax that Eritrea levies on its citizens living abroad. And its incredibly important estimates suggest it provides maybe a third of the government's total budget.
A third from citizens overseas. That's huge. And you said coercive. How do they enforce it from afar?
Well, the methods described are quite harsh. Eritrean consulates, embassies, they apparently demand proof you've paid this tax before they give you essential services.
Like what kind of services?
Things like renewing your ID card,
Yeah.
getting legal documents processed, even getting permission to sell property back home. If you haven't paid, you might face demands for huge amounts in back taxes, potentially years' worth.
Wow, so they're basically holding essential services hostage.
That's how it's often described. It got so bad that the UN Security Council actually condemned it back in 2011. Resolution 2023 explicitly told Eritrea to stop using extortion, threats of violence, fraud, and other illicit means to collect these taxes.
A UN resolution specifically about this tax.
Yes, it shows how serious and widespread the issue was perceived to be. But it seems the practice didn't entirely stop.
That's pretty insidious. But the reports mention something even darker, right? This war profiteering and resource plunder, especially concerning the conflict in Ethiopia's Tigray region.
Yes, that part is deeply disturbing. The sources detail what they call industrial-scale looting operations by the Eritrean Defense Forces, the EDF, in Tigray during the 2020-2022 war.
Industrial scale, meaning?
Meaning it wasn't just random soldiers taking things, it was described as organized and calculated, designed to grab as much wealth as possible and also to deliberately cripple the Tigrayan economy, a systematic stripping of assets.
That's horrifying. What kind of assets are we talking about?
The reports list things like gold, valuable historical antiquities, and even, tragically, human trafficking is mentioned in relation to these operations.
My goodness.
There's one estimate cited around $75 to $80 million worth of gold per year being diverted from Tigray onto the black market, smuggled out by military officers, corrupt officials, feeding right back into the illicit system.
75 to 80 million in gold annually.
That's the estimate reported. And alongside that, there was apparently a noticeable spike in Ethiopian artifacts turning up on international auction websites, often without clear origins, suggesting they were part of this plunder.
So it's characterized as state-level kleptocracy in action.
Exactly. Sophisticated, systematic, not just petty theft. And there's another interesting detail mention of a Red Sea Trading Corporation entity registered in the UAE dealing in gold and metals, raising questions about using other countries to potentially move these illicit funds and bypass sanctions.
Okay, so multiple streams of income, some deeply troubling. Now, there was one other claim that the sources flagged as uncorroborated. Something about Swiss bank accounts.
Ah, yes. It's important to be careful here. One report, described by our sources as politically aligned, alleged that an Eritrean-linked account found in the HSBC Swiss leaks held a massive sum over $695 million.
Wow, over $500 million.
Yeah, supposedly belonging to President Afwerki and his inner circle. Now, while that kind of hidden wealth would certainly fit the opaque model we've discussed,
Right.
but, and this is crucial, that specific claim lacks independent corroboration from wider, credible journalistic investigations. It was in one source, so we mention it, but it absolutely needs to be treated as an unverified allegation. Handle with caution.
Understood. Important context. So you've got this complex system, illicit funding. You'd think it would be fragile. But the report stressed the PFDJ's remarkable resilience. It even survived broad UN sanctions back in 2009, 2011. How did it manage that?
That really speaks to the effectiveness of its design, in a way. Those earlier UN sanctions were for things like supporting armed groups, destabilizing the region. But remember how we talked about the insulated financial system?
The non-convertible currency capital controls?
Exactly. They could operate largely outside the reach of traditional financial pressure points. And ironically, those UN sanctions were actually lifted in 2018 after the peace deal with Ethiopia.
So that was a chance for change, an opening.
You'd think so. But the reports state clearly, the regime made no changes to its political and economic agenda. They stuck with the command economy and then got involved in the Tigray War. It showed a deep reluctance to alter course.
So the off-ramp was there, but they didn't take it, which led to a different approach from the international community.
Precisely. In November 2021, the U.S. implemented new sanctions. But these were different, targeted and intelligence-driven.
Who did they target specifically this time?
They went right for the core structures and individuals identified as key. The PFDJ party itself, the Eritrean Defense Force, the Hydri Trust, the Red Sea Trading Corporation, and, significantly, Hagos Gebrhiwet Wildekadam personally.
And the justification.
Explicitly for their continued role in the Tigray conflict and for very serious abuses. Looting, sexual assault, killing civilians, and blocking humanitarian aid. It was a direct response to ongoing actions and the nature of the regime.
It really brings it back to that personalized control with Hagos being central. So despite everything, it's that built-in opacity, the disconnected finances, the coercive taxes. That's what keeps it going.
That seems to be the consensus in the reports. His ability to leverage the informal economy, combined with the system's overall structure, helped them weather previous storms. It's that combination, the secrecy, the insulation, the reliable, if coercive income streams, that makes it such a persistent headache for the international community. It's not a simple fix.
So wrapping this all up, our deep dive today really paints a picture of something quite unique. Eritrea's financial system, as described in these sources, isn't just corrupt, it's a deliberately engineered kleptocracy, built on fused state and party power, funded through illicit means, and proving incredibly resilient.
And the takeaway for you, the listener, why does this specific case matter? Well, it's a stark reminder of the risks out there for international investors, for financial institutions. It shows the sheer complexity of global finance when states choose to operate outside the usual rules. And ultimately, it highlights the huge challenge to peace and stability when a regime puts its own survival and enrichment above everything else, including the basic well-being of its people. It's almost a blueprint for avoiding accountability.
Yeah, a system where the state is the extraction tool and accountability is deliberately engineered out. It really makes you think, doesn't it? What does this reveal about power and wealth in our world today? And maybe, just maybe, how might similar systems be operating, perhaps less obviously elsewhere? Something to definitely mull over.